Hello and welcome to Conversations With. I'm your host, H. Lee Tony, Executive Director of Miami-Dade College's Carrie P. Meek Entrepreneurial Education Center. And we have a really fun show lined up for you today. I'm happy to have as my guest Wifredo Wifi Fernandez. And Wifredo wears many hats, but the primary hat that we're going to talk about today is that he's one of the founders of a very interesting space called Lab Miami. So we're going to talk a lot about that. Welcome to the show,
Thank
Wifredo.
you so much.
Thank you for agreeing to come on as a guest. I'm excited to have you in particular on our show because I think you and what you're involved in is at the hub of what I'll call this entrepreneurial buzz that has taken over our community. You were one of the founders, am I right, of a space called Lab Miami, and I've visited there a couple times. Think it's a really, really cool space. Why don't you tell our audience about it?
Sure. So Lab Miami is a 10,000 square foot campus for social and tech innovation. So what that means during the day, it's activated as a workspace for over 130 entrepreneurs, representing over 80 organizations. In the evening, we then kind of transform it into a learning and event space. So we have classes and workshops on web development, graphic design, computer programming, 3D printing. And also host panel discussions, book talks, bi-monthly film screenings, and all types of meetups. So it really does serve as an activity center for the community.
So I know you started out as a teacher in Washington, D.C. with Teach for America. Yeah. So I know life takes you many different twists and turns. How did you end up at the nexus of creating a space like Lab Miami?
So I was selected to this pilot cohort that Teach for America started a social innovation program that took a group of 25 teachers in the DC region and took them through about a 5-month entrepreneurial boot camp. So our weekends we spent working on ideas for ventures in education. And in that process I got to talk with my old college roommate about a lot of different ideas that we were cooking up, and that led us to coming back to Miami to start something new in technology. And then we found that we needed a whole lot of resources to make that happen. We needed a professional space that wasn't a coffee shop or our room. We needed mentorship, we needed access to capital, access to talent to help us create the technology, and yeah, most of all, a supportive community that can help launch it.
So you walk into Lab Miami, and if you've never been there, and social innovation and tech innovation hasn't quite landed the plane for you, you still don't get what this is all about. Describe what a person would encounter.
Yeah, so you walk in there during the day, and you can walk around and meet people from all different types of industries. So it's not just tech entrepreneurs, it's not just social entrepreneurs, but it is a place where people are building new things. So we have everything from tech startups to architects to photographers, graphic designers, marketers, public relations people. We even have an internet radio station that functions out of there, as well as lawyers, nonprofits, and investors. So it really is a campus for kind of innovators of all varieties. So you walk in there and you're able to see people working on different projects. You see some members collaborating together on projects. And really it's all types of interesting people. And that's kind of the idea, is to bring a lot of different types of people together.
What intrigued me about the physical space, because I believe physical space and where you do the work is really important, is that it's so open. And everyone's there just right next to each other, kind of elbow to elbow. I mean, not that close, but figuratively elbow to elbow. And I could be working on one thing and you could be working on something else. And our work might connect or it might not. So it's a really dynamic environment.
Absolutely, and that's by design. You see a lot of corporations taking down their walls and their cubicles and switching to open environments. That increases the opportunity for collisions and serendipitous encounters. And yeah, really, even if someone doesn't team up with you on a project, they can give you advice or feedback, and it's a different perspective. And that's also, again, the importance of having a diverse membership base, is that you don't get a lot of the same type of thought. And so that allows for kind of great exchange of ideas and feedback.
And so you became aware of this type of a space emerging? Because I was in Charlotte, North Carolina just last week, and I was at a place called Packard Place that's similar, not as open, but very more open than you would find in a traditional corporation. But it's the same kind of idea of kind of curating the people that come into the space, a space where innovation can happen and is supportive, but there's also this real true community connection. And I saw that at Lab Miami. You had a garden. I saw some kids in there doing a Saturday kind of open market. So there's a real defined and very clear and intentional community focus as well.
Absolutely. So this is part of a global trend called co-working, where you have the rise of the independent worker and freelancers and startups and individual entrepreneurs, and they're finding they don't need a traditional office space. They need something where they can plug in when they need to and have general office amenities, but also that they look for that kind of support system. And so now there are thousands of co-working spaces around the country. There are dozens in every major city, but each with a different focus. You're starting to see more niche co-working spaces for different industries. But absolutely, I think the number one value proposition for these spaces is that sense of community. Because as an entrepreneur, sometimes you feel like you're alone. And so having that support system is very important.
How has Miami embraced the work that you are undertaking? Has there been a lot of support from the traditional business community? How are people responding to Lab Miami?
Very well. So we were born and raised in Miami. So we saw Miami change under our feet as we went away to school, and we came back to a different city. Particularly, we focused on Wynwood and its kind of transformation into this creative arts district. And so we said, that's definitely kind of a sign of where Miami is going. It's exploding culturally. There's pockets of entrepreneurial activity, and then how can we marry those two? So when I moved back in 2011, Danny, my co-founder, and we started talking to different people in the community, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, investors, etc., just to get feedback on the idea. We applied to the Herald Business Plan competition. At the time, we were just idea on paper. We didn't make it far, but that didn't deter us. But we got a lot of good positive feedback from the community. And since then, it's validated that Miami needed something like this. There are other co-working spaces now, but we really are trending more towards this kind of community center that kind of brings together talent. But we've been very well received from our members to the community that wants to host events and partner with us. We work with all types of institutions of higher education, the school district, corporations. Very well received, and obviously with the great help of the Knight Foundation and some forward-thinking local investors that help make it a reality. Without them, it's not possible.
Well, I can't pass up that teachable moment. You said you applied to the business plan competition. You didn't do well, but you didn't let that deter you.
Oh, of course not. No, at the time, we were just, an idea on paper. We didn't have any physical facility. We didn't have any proof of concept, really. And I think that's why, we didn't make it far. So we realized at that point, we need to start somewhere. And that's when we opened up our first location, which we completely bootstrapped. We had help of our family and a little bit of money that we had saved up, and we were able to put kind of down payment and security deposit on a 700 square foot space. Took about $300 worth of wood, built some tables out of pallets. And
I saw those when I was there. They're still there.
Yeah, and just open up the doors and put up some prices and say, okay, who's going to come and who's going to work here? And we had 20, 25 members that filled up the space in the first couple of months, and that gave us that proof of concept that we needed and the feedback that we needed to see, okay, there's a demand for this. What happens if we invest more and really open this up?
And clearly people see the value proposition of joining up with Lab Miami in these co-working spaces and moving themselves out of the local coffee houses and the free Wi-Fi that's there.
Absolutely.
So the value proposition has been made clear.
Yeah, there's a clear value, and your coffee's included, your internet's included, copy, print, web hosting, and also access to the education and the events is important too. And for the entrepreneur, you don't want to have to worry about security deposits, all different types of bills that you have to pay and keep track of, right? You eliminate all those headaches, and that's the value of co-working at large, is that it simplifies all kind of the back office stuff that you normally deal with office space.
It sounds like you're what could be called the entrepreneur's entrepreneur. So you have a special sensitivity to what entrepreneurs, especially startups, are facing.
And
right?
we lived that ourselves for that first year where we were getting feedback. We were working out of a coffee shop in our houses, so we knew the pain of having to have a meeting at a coffee house, and sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't work or there's not enough tables, so we knew those kind of little pain points, but also knew that it'd be nice to be able to have someone who's at the coffee house as well, but that's going through something similar that you can talk to, get feedback from, and learn from, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Well, this new entrepreneurial culture, this ecosystem that's emerging, has really spawned a new vocabulary. And when we come back from our break, I'm going to have a rapid fire vocabulary session with you.
Okay,
and I'll
cool.
throw out a word and you tell me what it means, and our audience will appreciate it very much. So we'll be right back with Wifredo from Lab Miami. I hope you'll stay with us.
Cool programs for hot jobs. Let Miami-Dade College jumpstart your career. We offer bachelor's degrees in film and TV production, electronics engineering, supervision and management, and nursing. Or choose from 300 other programs. With our flexible course schedules, you can take classes during the day, evening, weekend, or online. For more info, visit MDC.edu or call 305-237-8888. Get the knowledge and training for today's in-demand jobs. Register now.
Greetings and welcome back to Conversations With. I'm here with Wifredo Fernandez, one of the co-founders of Lab Miami, a co-working space for startup entrepreneurs devoted to social and technology innovation. So I said before we went to break that we're going to have a little vocabulary quiz. And basically I'm going to throw out about 3 or 4 words and you're going to tell me and the rest of the world what these words mean, because it's really a lexicon that's kind of emerged around this whole startup culture. For instance, what's an accelerator?
An accelerator is a formal program that will take a startup through usually 3 or 4 months of intensive mentorship, coaching, product development, capital raising, and kind of take a startup that has maybe a proof of concept or prototype and really be able to have them ready for an investor pitch day or really to kind of find more customers. Right, so it kind of takes an entrepreneur that maybe doesn't have a certain kind of industry connection and may kind of accelerate the process of their development.
You mentioned one of my next word. What's a pitch demo day? What that is?
So usually accelerator programs at the end of their 3 or 4 months, they'll congregate a whole lot of investors, and the startups that have gone through the program will then try and seek to raise funds from a group of investors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next word, hackathon.
A hackathon is a coding competition. So usually it'll be centered around some sort of challenge, and a bunch of hackers or computer programmers will get together for a weekend and build stuff. And build software, sometimes hardware, and really it's kind of a coding challenge, time incentive. So usually it'll be over a 24-hour period. They sleep through the night. And they compete for all types of prizes.
Okay. A startup.
A startup is any company kind of 2 years or below in terms of how long they've been operating, usually under a couple $1 million in funding. Kind of at that early stage, they may have some revenue, they may not. They're in that kind of trying to find their product market fit in their development, yeah.
So who is the prototypical Lab Miami entrepreneur, or is there a typical entrepreneur? Are you seeing a variety of different profiles? I think I'm asking this question because a lot of people think, and may even be a little turned away because they think it's all about technology and it's all about coding. So could you kind of clarify that for us?
Yeah, we cater to the creative at large. So we don't say, hey, we're going to only take tech people or just people in startups. We want people, who express creativity in their work, however it may be, and and B, and more importantly, is that they want to contribute something to the community, whether it's lead a workshop, whether it's mentor another member, host a meetup, produce an event, so that they're trying to put something into the community, not just kind of take from it.
Is this a community that, or Lab Miami, is it the type of space where, say, a student who's still in school, who's still working on their associate's degree or working on their bachelor's degree, could find community and support for their emerging ideas?
Absolutely, and we have some student members. Definitely for the student that is a hustler, that is trying to use all the resources available to them to make their idea come true. It's not a place that you're going to have your hand held, but it's a place where if you leverage the people around you, you can really kind of make your idea come to life. And absolutely, we have student members. And that's important to also have that kind of diversity in age. I mean, Facebook was started by a college student. Bill Gates was a college dropout. Those are obviously a lot of exceptions, but those were young people trying to do daring things.
So who's the most, and you don't have to give specifically, but again, to kind of show people how broad and how diverse your community is, they immediately think of the Mark Zuckerbergs, they immediately think of the Bill Gates. Who's the most anti kind of Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg type company that you can think of that you've come across in your work in Lab Miami? Anybody come to mind that's kind of like not tech focused, but doing something really interesting and maybe using technology to buttress their business in some way? You mentioned a nonprofit, that there are nonprofits in this space as well.
There are some nonprofits. There's really one that always sticks out to me. It's called Wynwood, and this is a gentleman who's built a platform for vinyl enthusiasts. So this is a technology, vinyl, that's coming back and resurging in terms of its usage in the market and its popularity, and now kind of leveraging technology to power that community. So having a place where you can share your collections, where you can find rare vinyl, where record stores who traditionally don't have websites or platforms can kind of load up their inventory, and they're creating a marketplace for vinyl enthusiasts.
Well, I just know someone who sold a very impressive LP collection. They just could have held on just a little bit longer,
Yeah, it's a very niche market, but I think a very powerful and has a lot of potential.
All right, well, Wifredo, we're going to take another break. I'll give you a warning. When we come back, we're going to ask you what's next, because I think you're someone who's on the cutting edge of what's next in entrepreneurship. So we'll talk a little bit about that right after our next break. I hope you'll stay with us.
Great.
Fresh thinking is being served at Miami-Dade College. Create your own recipe for success in the evolution of food culture at the Miami Culinary Institute. Learn the skills you need to jumpstart your career in the culinary arts. Turn green into gourmet and celery into salary. Miami Culinary Institute. Food, culture, innovation. Visit us at miamidadeculinary.com. Register now. Miami Culinary Institute.
Welcome back to Conversations With. I'm your host, H. Lee Tony, and my guest today is Wifredo Fernandez from Lab Miami. And we've been talking about Lab Miami and this burgeoning entrepreneurial ecosystem here in South Florida. And I want to ask you, what do you see that's next in terms of entrepreneurship? Miami-Dade County has staked a claim very clearly that it's interested in seeing our area grow in areas like logistics, and of course hospitality has always been our major industry, but also now IT, banking, finance, the creative industry. Richard Florida has always talked about that, and that seems to have gained a lot of traction. What are you sensing is next among the entrepreneurs that you engage with on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I'm not alone in thinking that technology either is or will be a part of everything that we do. and any business is going to have an element of technology. So I don't think it'll be just a sole industry per se. In Miami, what we've seen lately is a lot of development in healthcare technology, and we have kind of a natural ecosystem for that to support that. Huge hospital system, plenty of healthcare consumers. So that's one, if we're talking about specific industry, that I see great potential in, for Miami being kind of that hub, global hub for technology. Secondly is education. We have a very interesting member company called Learner Nation that is creating kind of a learning management platform for both enterprises and schools and organizations, but also for any individual that wants to kind of take their talent and market it online. So any individual can create a course on there and then sell it online. And so they kind of have both enterprise solutions and then kind of a public-facing consumer solution. So I think education technology, us having fourth largest school district in the country, there's a lot of opportunities for companies to tackle problems in education, but also healthcare.
Tell me, as a college, what do you think colleges and universities can do better to provide an environment where young people can think in innovative ways and can immediately be able to connect to the kind of ecosystem, the kind of community that's being created here? I mean, colleges sometimes can be very traditional. What needs to happen in the higher education realm from your point of view to really create this culture while students are still getting their degrees?
Yeah, one of the biggest needs that we see and we hear from companies either trying to start up here or trying to move here from other cities is talent, right? And so that's talent and product management and digital marketing and mobile and web development, all kinds of emerging technologies that traditionally institutes of higher education can't move fast enough in terms of educating the population in these kind of new fields. And with a lot of technologies, they're coming up new every year. So you really have to iterate rapidly in terms of curriculum development, hiring the right faculty to teach those. So I think the more nimble universities or colleges will be at an advantage in being able to adapt to those, and really talking to startups and early stage companies and even later stage companies and seeing, okay, what are their needs, and being able to quickly adapt to those needs. I think Miami-Dade College actually has been probably one of the leaders here in Miami in being able to quickly offer courses in Python and app development and traditional computer science as well, but really kind of these cutting edge languages that some of these startups need. So I think that's one thing that colleges and universities can really do is kind of focus in on a lot of these skills that aren't traditionally taught in run-of-the-mill majors and departments.
What also occurs to me as I listen to you talk about the skills that's needed, there's also a very important kind of fundamental critical thinking, being able to think abstractly, to think conceptually. That's also, I would imagine, equally as important to the technical skills of knowing how to code and develop an app and those kinds of things. That would also be important because you're basically imagining something that's not there. Right?
Absolutely.
So the liberal arts, a strong liberal arts complement to these technical skills, you think still relevant? Or
100%. And I think entrepreneurship is about learning by doing, and just you have an idea and seeing how you actually put that idea out there, get feedback from it. So there's a popular methodology called the lean startup, is that you create a minimum viable product, something that people can touch with or play or give you some feedback on, that you can have some sort of user experience with, and then iterate based on that feedback rather than spend months and months or even years in development without actually talking to customers. So I think a lot of learning by doing, and how that translates to or fits within the structures of universities is probably the challenge. But yeah, definitely more project-based, hands-on, in the field curriculum is what we need.
Talk about failure. What role does failure play in entrepreneurship?
Oh, it's an essential component. You need to learn. and that's you learn best by failing. So I think every great entrepreneur will tell you that there's great value, there's no shame, and we're lucky in the United States that more and more so we embrace failure. For example, Latin America, failure is not seen as favorably, by families, by society. So really being able to take that risk, to take the jump, to launch into something, and it's okay if you fail, but it's good to have kind of a support system that will kind of encourage you to do so. So that's very valuable to have.
Good. Well, Wifredo, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us, our audience, how they can learn more about Lab Miami.
Sure.
Is there a website? What are your hours? Can they stop by?
Yeah, you can stop by. We're there every day. We have 4 or 5 events going on every week. You can find all those events at www.thelabmiami.com or follow us on Twitter at @thelabmiami. We're on Facebook as well, Instagram. So just Google us and you'll find all sorts of information. We have a weekly newsletter that highlights our events as well as other interesting events going on around town in technology and creative industries, etc.
Great. Well, thank you so much for visiting with
Thank
us
you.
today. I enjoyed our talk very much, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more, so feel free to come back and tell us, give us an update
my pleasure.
on what the interesting things that are happening at the lab. I appreciate your time spent with us today at Conversations With. I hope you enjoyed our show, and we'll be back with us next time. Thank you very much.